Hey, witches, it's Wednesday. What do you get? You get the Witches movie cover and a whole lot of black, plushy black Phillips. Blinged up a lot these days. What? Yes, what is this? This is Witches talking about witches in movie. If it's your first time here, we are your hosts. Let me introduce myself. My name is Patti Negri. I am one of your fabulous hosts of this fabulous group. You might know me from The Witching Hour, my regular podcast. You might know me from Ghost Adventures or other shows or tours or my books. But right now, right here, what I am one of the witches of the Witches movie coven. Let me hand you over to the beautiful one of the golden locks, Jason Mankey.
After a 2 week sabbatical, I'm back. I'm Jason. I've written 10 books for Llewellyn. This is my 10th book, which will be out in May. High Priest, a biography of Raymond Buckland. I'm so excited. That doesn't help you at all. There you go.
Okay, thank you very much. And next, the one and only Richard-Lael Lillard.
Hello, Richard-Lael is one name. If I were just Richard, I would be a. That is right. I am known as the gentleman psychic. I'm a psychic and a medium. I used to be a psychic and a small, but I gained some weight. Unlike all of the other psychics who are all doom and gloom or love and light, I'm a happy medium. With that, I am sometimes seen on Ghost Adventures. I am also at University Magicus. I am here in New Orleans, where I read tarot and do seances in my home. I'm really easy to find, and that's what I am.
And our beautiful, we don't have Heather today and we don't have Courtney today, but we are thrilled. Our regular fill-in, the one and only Tabitha. Welcome, Tabitha.
Hi, everyone. I am Tabitha Meadows, and I am a medium and psychic, and I am so happy to be here tonight to talk about Ghost during this multi-planetary lineup. Thank you very much for having me once again.
That's right, a multi-planetary lineup. So we should all be outside looking up. No, we should be right here because we have the full night to go outside. So this week, Ghostbusters 2, 1989. 89, that's like 30 something years ago, which is
Let's
really
not talk about that.
My fingers going, oh, no wonder they look so young. But anyway, Ghost Adventure. I can't say it. Ghost. That's why it takes 4 of us to be a host, because any of us on our own just can't do it. It takes he keeps kicking me. Like Bling Phillip. We have a new Bling Phillip, which we're going to be flashing to you soon. So in case you don't have your black goat to cuddle up with, maybe you could have one by next week. There we go. Look at now.
That's great.
That is the new, really big Bling Phillip, and everybody should have one. You can see he's got it wrapped around his horn, which makes me so very happy. So you can get that at mysterycontrol.com, along with some fabulous t-shirts from the Witches Movie Coven, things like quotes and Courtney quotes and Heather quotes and capes and cloaks, even a Richard-Lael pillow, because who doesn't need one of those? We all do. Anyway, Ghostbusters 2. I hope you've all seen it many times, but if you haven't, Richard-Lael, do you happen to have an unbiased synopsis of this film for us?
I certainly do. So this is, imagine a time when dinosaurs roamed the earth. It does feel that way sometimes because the technology is so 1980s. But you know what? This is a fun film, which was a sequel to Ghostbusters #1. Ghostbusters #1, of course, sets off the entire motion. I know we're specifically focusing on 2, but I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't give a little bit about the first one. So in the first one, it was the early 80s. I think it was 84, and they find that in the last days there is all of this demonic activity that happens. And then these 4 unlikely men end up by being Ghostbusters, and they save the city. There's a giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and an ancient god. Dana is no more, only Zool. And then we cut to Ghostbusters #2. Ghostbusters #2 takes place 5 years after the fact, and the original 4 do come back, but unfortunately, they were so good at eliminating all of the ghosts that they were out of jobs and they were working in a bookstore or working in, kids' parties or, dressed as Elmo in Times Square. I don't know. They were doing things that were not typically what you would associate with people who had reached a level of success. Anyway, as it turns out, there is an ooze underneath the belly of New York City, a pink ooze that, as you find out, is rather sentient, and it flows like a river to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where there happens to be a painting being restored. Vigo is his name, and Vigo it was a Carpathian, and he had lived to be a ripe old age of 100 years. And in that 100 years, he was stabbed, he was choked, he was strangled, he was beaten, and he managed to survive because, as they say, only the good die young. Well, Vigo certainly was not good. He was the supreme villain of the entire thing. And it just so happens that Dana is now... Dana, was that her name? Yeah, Dana. She is now being an art conservator while her child was an infant, and she will probably go back to the orchestra. She and Ray, one of the Ghostbusters. I'm bad with names. One of the Ghostbusters had broken up anyway. The last one. So now she has a baby with someone else. Oscar Meyer Wiener is the baby's name. Actually, it's funny, but he is named after a hot dog. That's a quote. Bill Murray says it. Anyway, so as it turns out that there are these ghosts that are now starting to take over the city, and this ooze, this slime is sentient, and it feeds on all of the negativity. And in all of the places in the world, it is assumed that there is a lot of negativity in New York City, and I would disagree. I think there's more negativity a little further out in Long Island, a little town called Glen Cove, but I'm not going to go there. Anyway, Lockjaw, we're not going to talk about their negativity. Anyway, all the negativity is flowing in the city. Vigo is trying to be reborn. He possesses this Dr. Martin Granger from the Addams Family Values. Anyway, he possesses him, and then he is taking over, and he's trying to take over the city, and everything is going awry. The Ghostbusters are being held in contempt of court, then they're being thrown into a psych asylum, and then, of course, a great form, this gelatinous mass, forms around the art conservatory, the Metropolitan Art Museum, and they can't break through with all of their machines, all of their bug zappers. So they go to the Statue of Liberty, and they've learned that it's sentient and it works on positive vibes too. So they slime her with a lot of ooze, and I know how that sounds. They slime her, and they play a great song that sings about love. Your love keeps lifting me higher. And because of that, Lady Liberty shines her torch, and she walks across the harbor. And because she is the symbol of freedom, she says, "Give me your poor, your tired, your weary, your huddled masses." And because she is such a symbol of purity and love, she breaks through that hard shell just in time to allow the Ghostbusters to come in, and then, of course, send Vigo back to the Carpathian Mountains where he deserved to be. There were ghosts who travel on a Titanic shows up, I think, in there too. There's a lot of things that happen, but overall, great story, fighting ghosts. They were not, however, very effective, and I'm going to tell you why. And this is normally we'd go to Heather and the things. Well, I actually wanted to talk a little bit before we go on. Clearly, the Ghostbusters did not do very well because in 1991, Patrick Swayze was a ghost. And so this was just 1 year later, and his apartment was 30 minutes away from Dana's apartment. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, and then I do have one more thing. No, I'll save that for later. Anyway, yes, that's it.
Thank you very, very much. Yeah, that was brilliant. And you're right, they did not do very good. Okay. Now, Jason, I think you said that you have some things to talk about. You're going to be Heather. Put on the scarf.
My name is Heather Green. I am the author of the book about witches and movies, Lights, Camera, Witchcraft. However, this movie is not in my book because there's not a witch in it. So here you go. 5 things that you should know about Ghostbusters 2. I know that we've already talked about this one before, but actor and writer Dan Aykroyd, who co-wrote the script with Harold Ramis, believes in ghosts. And he grew up believing in ghosts, and he grew up with parents who conducted seances in his living room. In one interview, he said, "I am a spiritualist, a proud wearer of the spiritualist badge. Mediums and psychic research have gone on for many, many years. Loads of people have seen spirits, heard a voice, or felt the cold temperature." So the Ghostbusters movies have always been a labor of love for Dan Aykroyd because he's a true believer. He's also a believer in aliens and lots of other things. 15 years ago, he made a weird movie that was on Netflix where he chain smokes cigarettes and talks about UFOs. If you can ever find it, you should totally find it and watch it and be both horrified and amused. So, number 2, this movie did not do very well at the box office. Kind of. It made $215 million worldwide with a budget of $40 million, which is really good, but the reviews were generally negative. And the first movie had made $370 million worldwide. This created a narrative that Ghostbusters 2 killed the Ghostbusters franchise, which is why we did not see another Ghostbusters movie until 2016. Point 3, why did this movie do less well than its predecessor? Well, one thing is the reviews didn't help, but a lot of it had to do with just how stacked the summer of 1989 was. And Ghostbusters 2 came out the week before Batman, which made twice as much as Ghostbusters 2 and was the most anticipated movie of the year. And Batman, as much as people liked it and as much money it made, wasn't even the biggest movie of the year. That was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And when I say that summer was stacked, the whole year was stacked with movies. There was Batman, Indiana Jones, Lethal Weapon 2, Look Who's Talking, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Back to the Future Part 2, Driving Miss Daisy, Dead Poet Society, Parenthood, The Little Mermaid. The list is really, really long. 1989 was a huge year for movies. Number 4, things you should know. One of the things that happened to the Ghostbusters in the 5 years between Ghostbusters 1 and 2 was the kidification of the Ghostbusters. Part of that stemmed from a cartoon that was a sort of sequel to the original movie. The last 3 years that the cartoon was on the air, it was called Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters, meaning the Ghostbusters, the adults, were second to that stupid ghost with the big mouth. Also, during this period of time, there was an ecto cooler released by High C. That the ecto cooler, of course, is the greatest fruit drink ever made under the High C banner. So what this made everybody think was that Ghostbusters were for kids. And the second movie is a lot more cuddly than its original. And I think adults were kind of turned off by this because it felt like Ghostbusters were for 8-year-olds. Number 5, there was a sequel ready to go at various points. Dan Aykroyd definitely wanted to make a sequel. And by 1999, he had written an entire script for a Ghostbusters 3, but Bill Murray did not want to participate. So the project never got off the ground. You have to have Bill Murray if you're going to make a Ghostbusters movie with the original Ghostbusters. There was a video game featuring the original Ghostbusters, the real actors, that was released in 2009, and according to Dan Aykroyd, functions as a sequel to the second movie. That is 5 things to know about Ghostbusters 2. I have been Heather Green, and now I am once again Jason Mankey. Thank you for listening.
Patti, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm muted because Willow was barking. Somebody mentioned, who mentioned Willow, and she heard that. So she did join in. So I had to mute her. I'm sorry. She's so opinionated. So, yeah. So that thank you for those beautiful explanations of the movie. I don't know who wants to start with this. I will start. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I love the relationships of the guys. Um, I love Sigourney Weaver. I do love her, and she got to play a mom, which is kind of sweet. And I like the kind of they put a little humanity into it. I do think that Ernie Hudson could have been used more. He's just like the side character so much, and I don't know why. He's good. My one of my happiest moments is I actually got to play Ernie Hudson's wife in a movie a few years back called Spaceman with Josh Duhamel. It's a small role in a small independent movie, a really funny baseball movie. If you like baseball, called Spaceman, the story of a real guy who was this baseball player but stoned all the time. But he played Major League Baseball, and Josh Duhamel played him, but Ernie Hudson played one of his bandmates. And I'm sitting there at the baseball field. I'm going, you're a real Ghostbuster. I'm a Ghostbuster. Well, I'm a paranormal investigator, but you're a Ghostbuster. And I just for my little role as his little wife in the baseball field, it was really great. But it had people's story to me, this one, for some reason, that I got involved in, and I there, Spaceman, yeah. If you like baseball and kind of biopics about people, it's really good. I don't think it ever. I don't know if it got released. It was a small little independent film that Josh did, Labor of Love. But I enjoyed every second of this movie, probably as much as the first one for some reason. So that's what I have to say about it. I like all the people, but give Ernie Hudson some more lines, please.
I have something to say.
Okay.
Only because Aeon says, I would like your review of Ghostbusters 2016. No. And I'll tell you why. So, the funny thing is, Bill Murray's character plays this talk show host whom all of the frauds, all of the fakes, all of the kooks, sort of like a dollar store. Goodness,
Kreshkin.
Art Bell. It's like a dollar store Art Bell. All of the kooks go on the show. Sometimes they're real, sometimes they're not. The man over here to the left of the screen, he predicted that the end of the world was going to be New Year's Eve that year. So would it be in 1990? Maybe. The funny thing is, though, the woman to the right, she predicts the end of the world is in 2016. And in 2016, that is when that abomination of a film was made, Ghostbusters, with an all-female cast and unfunny characters. It was the end of the world. 2016 was the end of the world.
Well, Peter does admit that he is a fraud backstage, so there was that. He just wouldn't admit it on to the public when he was out on stage, of course. But yeah, he said yes, he was a fraud. And I did like that Ray owned an occult shop, so he was running that metaphysical shop. So there's a little bit of tie to witchy stuff there.
I also think that Vigo might have been a witch. I mean, if you tie Vigo to Rasputin, who, of course, was known as a witch, even though he was a priest, people had tried to stab and poison and murder Rasputin, and he always survived. Now, they claim it was dark magic, and maybe with Vigo, it is the same thing.
Yeah, though I still see him more as a vampiric. It's the Carpathian Mountains. Goes right through Romania. I just spent a few weeks there. He very more vampy than witchy to me, or a vampy witch or a witchy vamp. They're so crossover these days. Yeah.
But there was.
I want to get back to one thing Tabitha said. She goes, it was witchy because of the occult bookstore. And it looks like an occult bookstore. It's got the racks of herbs behind the counter and things. It's got the overstuffed bookshelves. And I think today a lot of the stores are a little cleaner and nicer looking. But in the 80s and 90s, you saw a lot of stores that looked a lot like that. I have no idea if it was based on Herman Slater's Magical Child bookstore, which was in New York for a long time, but it would be really cool if it was.
It might have even been a real one. It kind of, I mean, they could have been on location and doing it there. I mean, I did a film not too long ago called Portraits, and I was the occult bookstore shop. We went into Panpipes, a store that in Hollywood looks just like that. There's at least 3 or 4 in Hollywood, LA, that looks still. Crooked Path still looks like that. Green Man still looks like that. Pan's Apothecary still looks like that. So we still have it. Maybe they just shot the real one. That's what I was hoping.
I hope so too. And you have a feeling that Dan Aykroyd is probably somebody who's been in several different occult bookstores over the years and decades, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was handing over a book as well, so I thought that was pretty cool to bring that in.
I had oddly never seen Ghostbusters 2 until today.
Wow.
And I had seen the original in the theaters when I was a kid. But as I said earlier, 1989 was this super busy summer of movies.
Major.
And movies, like if you missed it, sometimes you just missed it because it wasn't on cable immediately. You had to have HBO and you could see it the next summer. And I think I saw bits of it on HBO over the next couple of years, but I had never sat down and watched the entire movie from start to finish. I think some of my reluctance to go see it was based on that. I thought it really was for kids because by that point, it's 5 years after the first movie and there's all the cartoons and stuff. And the cartoon wasn't bad, but I was a little old for the cartoon. So, and I knew kids who were like 6 who had Ghostbusters action figures. Once you have an action figure, you're saying to me as a snotty 16-year-old, this is for children and I can't go do it anymore, right?
Well, I was one of those children who had the action figures, and I didn't like a lot of movies. I loved The Addams Family, 1991, which was shortly thereafter. I loved Back to the Future. Like I loved these things, but the Ghostbusters always had a special place in my heart. In fact, there was a cereal from the first one. I don't have a clip of that one, but there was a cereal box that had a hologram of Spud, and I cut that out and I would shine the light on it. I mean, I even had it up until probably the early 90s. I had just that cut out from that cereal box. So I was one of those dumb kids with the action figures. I vaguely remember an action figure, and I think it was based on the cartoon, of an old woman whose front would turn into like this giant monster, like with tongue, her like it would fold down. There was a tongue. I had her in my collection. So yeah, I was one of those dumb kids.
Aw, that's not dumb. That's so cool. I mean, being able to hold on to your childhood is everything because we're forced to be adults quicker than I think that we should be. So buy the dolls and the Black Phillips and have all the things that keep you childlike because it's really important.
Right.
There it is. That's the one. That is the one that I had right there.
That's amazing.
And on the back, it has this this hologram that you could look like it was you had this ghost with you. And I would go into the back room in the night and I would shine a light on it and I would
Yeah.
Ghosts.
That is, I must say how much this movie actually kind of shaped our paranormal. For those of us, Richard-Lael, Tabitha, we work in the paranormal world. I can't tell you how many copies of the Ghostmobile I have seen out front at paranormal conventions. How many people showed up in full Ghost Adventures and the kit and everything. Almost every paranormal convention, they made their mark on ghost hunting and ghost hunters, and I think in a really fun way.
They did. Go ahead.
They were I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say they were technologically advanced too, which they use a lot of the things that you would think in a contemporary ghost hunt.
Yeah, and they do pull out the Wigadaga meter and the Lekky Deaky. That's just like the tech guys at ghost hunting. It's exactly like them, the little tech nerds.
Yeah, the gigameter and the proton packs. Yeah.
Kathy, you could like 2016. I liked that it was girls. It just wasn't.
I love 2016. I unapologetically love 2016. I know we're not talking about it, but the only mistake they made was not linking it to the original film. Like if it had just been, we're going to take up the mantle of the Ghostbusters, I think it would have been a lot better. I think people really wanted that continuation, and they decided to completely start over, which was really the only mistake. I love the cast of that movie. I think it's certainly a lot better than the reboots that we've seen the last 4 years with the little kids wearing proton packs, which are nuclear generators. Like, don't give that to 10-year-olds. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just too old and the children need to get off my lawn. But don't give a nuclear reactor to a child. I'm just thinking that's not a good idea.
I was into that. I was actually into the newer ones with the kids and the grandkids of the original ones, and I thought that it was so sweet the way that they did connect it to the original. They did play not only on the nostalgia, but then they connected it. So I did like that. And that was that. You're right. The reason I didn't like the 2016 is because it was just like, oh, this is a new universe and nothing else existed, and this is the way that it is. And I thought it was, I thought it could have been better. I'm all for all female Ghostbusters, but I would have loved it if they would have said, you know what, our friends have done it, and now we're going to do it. If they would have had a whole new script.
I liked the first movie better than the second movie. I still like the second movie, but how do you follow up the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and the scene? Yeah, how do you follow that up? I mean, the later Lady Liberty walking down the street was pretty epic, and that was pretty cool. But it just kind of it just fell a little flat. This one did, but I still liked it. Yeah,
I think it had humanity, which it didn't have to have. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Peter, Ray, Egon, and Winston are such well-drawn characters that all of the things that came after were always going to be a little bit lesser. They're like Star Trek characters, like the original cast, like Kirk and Spock and Bones and Scotty and Sulu and Chekhov. These are people that have these like very definite character traits, and when you have a group of people, you can go, oh, that's my Bankman, that's my Ray, that's my Winston, that's my Egon, right? Because all 4 actors are really terrific, and they play those roles so well. When I was watching the movie today, I forgot how much I love seeing Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd especially dive into these characters as actors that I have grown up with my entire life, right? And yeah, that's what makes the original Ghostbusters so good.
Yeah, they're certainly so funny around every turn. The quick little one-liners that they're throwing in. You get the chuckle in there, and those are a wonderful part about this as well. The nostalgia for me today watching it, because I was a kid of the '80s as well, so. Movies were really big, and golly, how about the music montages that would pop up in this movie? They were great as well.
There is, can you show the one with the toaster again? The scene where they're playing with the toaster. So in this one, I love this fact that they have a toaster that, of course, that if you sing to it and you caress it and you sleep with it, as in the case of Egon, then it produces happy things, and it pops up this very happy toast. And Ray is saying how that it's a new thing on Christmas. He's going to do this great thing, but you have to be careful that you can't be mean. You have to make certain that you are always nice to it. And that reminds me, around the same time, 1989, 1990, I'm not entirely certain, there was a rash of like satanic toast that was being seen. And there was one woman in particular who had a toaster, and she went on to one of the local shows, and she said, oh, I have this toaster and it'll spark and look at the toast. It says Satan lives on it. It doesn't have Jesus on it. It has Satan lives. And then she says, now watch. I'm gonna put some toast in here. She puts the toast in. She says, now it knows that I'm listening. It's not going to do it. The toaster bursts into flames. And he goes, the anchor says, well, if it's a satanic toaster, why are you keeping this toaster? And she said, well, it does make really good toast.
Ah,
There it is. You can find it on YouTube. Satan Lives, the Satan Lives toaster.
that is
Yeah.
so cool. I must congratulate our producer Rob for being right on and so quick with the photos today. I mean, you're always good, but
Today is something else.
today is something else.
Yeah.
Let's just
How
do
about-
things for him to come up with.
I have a little bit to add about the toaster scene, and then a little later on with the when they were playing with the slime in the buckets, because the water under the city turned to the slime when Vigio was trying to come out of the painting. The cool thing about that slime being alive is it makes me think about the experimentation where with water's alive. So there's cymatic experiments involving water and its responses to different frequencies and stimuli. And that also can tie into witchcraft as well, because most kitchen witches know, or anybody know, that you can speak into your water and speak positive affirmations or what have you. Speaking, singing, chanting into your water is something that we would do. You speak negatively to it, you're taking that into your body. Energy is important. Every thing you say about yourself energetically is important. So I thought that was cool that they were bringing that up. So not only it's both science and witchcraft, really, what they were kind of bringing into there in a side way.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for bringing that up, because I talk about that all the time. Even in my books, I talk about water. A glass of water, you could charge it to take away your pain. You could charge it to take away insomnia. You could charge it to have go into your dream life. I call it dream school and stuff. And science is proving all that now. So thank you for bringing that up. You're right. There's our witchy part. Yeah, thank you.
And I also think that it does amplify too. Whenever you have large concentrations of people, all of that energy, it has to go somewhere. And what is energy? But we think of it sort of as a sort of nondescript thing, but it does flow like water. It does flow like water. And I do love that aspect too. Is that the mayor in those scenes? He says, "What do you think? I need to tell 30 million New Yorkers to be nice to each other."
Yes.
Yes, actually, yes. Now, when I lived in New York, I lived in near Locust Valley, and I loved to go into Manhattan. Manhattan was great. In Manhattan, people left me alone. In Manhattan, I got three reactions to my visage. I got this one, which I liked a lot, that sort of mind your own business. I thought that was great. I got the one where they would do the double take and then do the over the shoulder selfie, which is interesting. And then, oh my God, you look great, which was great. But in Locust Valley, they have what's called the Locust Valley lockjaw. And they'll say, if they think that you're financially on their level, they'll say, smashing party. And then they'll turn around and they'll say, she's not going to make it. She's just not the right kind of people. So, yeah, New York City was great. Locust Valley, not so much.
Yeah. Not so much. I want to say Collins, what he said, best paranormal sites have moving water under sun. Yeah, that is a fact. Water is a conduit, energy. And plus, we are like 70% water. Our little human bodies, we're all water. And of course, the slime would be underground and doing all that. It makes perfect sense to me. And
Yes. Energy work would be a good place to start if you're thinking about getting into the craft or you're practicing your own craft.
yes.
I highly recommend that. One of the first things. It's so important.
Perfect.
I was watching the movie today, and I will admit I've been a little depressed the last couple of months, maybe the last 2 months. And the idea, though, that we're putting this energy out and it is tangible, right? And that we do find ourselves in doom spirals and doom loops. And maybe there's not just a giant sea of it under the cities that we're living in, but it's certainly there and it's moving around. And we have the power to make it a more positive thing if we choose to do so. And it's easy to forget that. I mean, as we said before, Dan Aykroyd is somebody who is very much interested in the occult, probably knows about energy. I think that this was written in such a way in order to encourage us to be more positive, because our negative energy does have consequences.
Right. And especially now when things are dark and scary all around us, and a lot of us aren't real happy with the things that are going on. We can't just fall into that, because it's so easy to just be that much more depressed and that much more frightened. And we are, but we have to step above it, or else we'd totally fall down that rabbit hole. So this is a perfect movie for that, to remind us we have that power.
And again, it uses the symbol of the Statue of Liberty. And what I find to be so incredibly powerful is that, yes, it was a gift from France to commemorate our bicentennial. Was it bicentennial? Anyway, it was 1876, I think.
Centennial.
Centennial, not bicentennial. That would have been, anyway, our centennial. So 1876 is when this was commissioned from France. And what people don't realize is that under her, at her feet, are broken chains. It's supposed to symbolize breaking away from slavery, breaking away from being held captive. And she has in her on her book, "Give me your tired, give me your poor, give me your huddled masses." She is a symbol of hope. She has been for now over 150 years. She is a symbol of hope. And she also represents a bringing of the light, bringing of that newness. Mm-hmm. What can we fight the darkness with? The torch of illumination, that light. She's radiant from the top. It radiates from here. And we think sometimes, oh, we get down into our bases, we get down in here into our lower levels. But when we realize that it's that crown chakra that we can open up and we can bring in that illumination, it does affect other people. It 100% affects other people.
Hear, hear.
Can we also talk about how great Annie Potts and Rick Moranis are? I have always loved Annie Potts. I loved her in Designing Women. I had a huge crush on her growing up. I have a bigger crush on her in Ghostbusters because I love those women with glasses with that heavy New York accent. That's a weakness of mine. I mean, I have lots of weaknesses, but that's another weakness of mine. But I love that they were invited back to the movie, had things to do, had a character arc and develop. And that's one of the things about these two Ghostbusters movies is how good the supporting cast are. It's not just the four Ghostbusters. Amazing. It's everybody else around them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
I have to say that I liked Annie Potts in Ghostbusters, but I personally had a crush on her in Designing Women.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
I mean, I to be fair, I had a crush on all of those women in Designing Women.
Yes.
I still go down that rabbit hole and watch whenever it's one of my feel-good go-to shows. And I just love how they stand up for what's right. And it's beautiful. I still have a crush on all of those women.
Like talking about Designing Women, we really need Heather here. And I can't just put on the scarf and magically turn into Heather at any moment because she's in Atlanta, like the Designing Women were in Atlanta, right? So she's got that super connection.
Excepting the house is in Arkansas. It takes place in Atlanta, but the house is in Arkansas. When you want to talk about real magic, the house on the exterior, which is in Arkansas, Little Rock, has 2 doors. And then when they come inside, there's only one. Talk about magic.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Didn't know that.
That's the one thing that irritates me. Well, there's a couple of things that irritate me about the set design because it's this beautiful 1860s house, even though she said, oh, it was 1830s. Second Empire was really 1870s. Anyway, this lovely 1870s house. And you go in and it's this big open room, which is it's such a product of the 80s, but it's so good. It really is so good. Here is the exterior of the house. And then when they go inside, that door right there, it's 2 doors.
Rob is just killing it tonight. Like that designing women house, just like that.
And it's in Arkansas. It was up for sale not that long ago. And it was, I think it was like $2 million or something, which in Arkansas is
a lot.
In
LA, it's a little shack.
Exactly.
In LA, it's an $8 million little shack.
This is the set for, and if you look, there's one door. The door does not match. None of this matches the layout of that house.
I would never have noticed that.
That's their design skills, though. They're so powerful that they can just change an entire house like that. That's why they were the designing women, those 4 originals. And of course, Jan Hooks, who came in after Delta Burke left. Love Jan Hooks. Sorry, we have really gone on a tangent tonight.
And that was the night the lights went out in Georgia.
Oh my.
Oh, and the great Meshack Taylor also in Designing Women that I don't want to forget. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Jan Hooks was one of my friends way back when, before she had the show. And rest in peace, Jan Hooks. She was a great girl.
Oh, one of the greatest of SNL ever. Absolutely ever. Oh, so talented. I miss Jan Hooks every day.
Oh.
She should have been in Ghostbusters too. I think should have found something for her to do.
Well, maybe she can be in Ghostbusters 7 or something.
Yes, I think they should make another one. Will they? Do we know? Anyway, do we have any quotes for this fine film?
Richard-Lael, do you want to go first?
Well, my quote was that 2016 one, and then that was, I already said that.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about it.
I wrote that one down because it's so good, right? It is a great quote. I did make some to fill in for Courtney, just because I thought if I didn't, I might get hexed.
It's a hexless night so far. I'm missing it. Hexless night.
All right. So here's a couple quotes. Egon says, "My parents didn't believe in toys." Ray says, "You mean you never even had a slinky?" Egon, "We had part of a slinky, but I straightened it." Egon, "I'd like to run some gynecological tests on the mother." Peter Venkman, "Who wouldn't?" Peter also, "I have more than 2 grades of laundry, okay? There's not just clean and dirty. There are many subtle levels, okay? See, you hang this outside the window for 20 minutes. It's perfectly fine." Yeah. Let's see. All right. Sigourney Weaver's character says to Peter Venkman, that's Bill Murray, "Okay, but after dinner, don't put any of those old cheap moves on me, okay?" No. It's different. I have all new cheap moves. Let's see. There was the best quote. What am I supposed to do? Go on television and tell 10 million people they have to be nice to each other? Being miserable and treating other people like dirt is every New Yorker's God-given right. And also, there are many perks in being the mother of a living God. I'm sure we could get a magnificent apartment, car, free parking. So there you go. Conjure up a god in your house and get free parking.
Beautiful. Thank you. Good quotes. And those were all standout ones for me. Thank you. That's good. All right. Well, I don't know. Oh, do we want to talk about the music in the movie at all? Anybody? A little birdie I heard in my ear saying we should talk about the music.
Well, the music is so good. Higher and Higher, Jackie Wilson. If you don't know, you have to, after this show, in like 10 minutes, you have to go Google Higher and Higher, because this one I feel is, I loved the Ghostbusters theme in the original one. You know, I didn't hear so much that in this one, but I love Higher and Higher. It's almost a religious experience.
Auld Lang Syne is the thing that brought the energy up at the end too.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were kind of losing it, and then all of a sudden they started hearing music from the door, and then it starts piping in, and then it pans out, and everybody everybody outside is singing the song. So that's definitely a song that represents new beginnings and friendships and old ones, and more humanity and love your neighbor.
Yeah, and I want to go back to the TV talk show when the guy said ending on New Year's Eve. The world could have ended on New Year's Eve. He could, right?
The song saved the day.
Yeah.
So, when I think of music in this movie, though, I think of On Our Own, the Bobby Brown song, which was like the single that they really pushed to radio and stuff, peaked at #2 on the Billboard charts. And one of the interesting things about that song, though, it's definitely an R&B song, but it has a couple of bridges that are pure rap by Bobby Brown. You know, take the proton packs and the backs and they split. I can do some of that rap, but I won't do all of it because it would probably horrify everyone here. But in 1989, that was a pretty big deal to meld those two categories together like that. And today, that's really commonplace. R&B and rap, hip hop certainly cross over all the time. But in 1989, it was a much bigger deal and much more rare. And Bobby Brown does that on the Ghostbusters II soundtrack of all soundtracks. And yeah, I loved that song when I was a kid. I was a heavy metal kid. I wasn't supposed to like anything that wasn't heavy metal, but I would sneak into the living room and watch MTV. And when the Bobby Brown song came on, I would dance around the living room, super happy, but always looking over my shoulder to make sure my brothers did not see me doing any of that.
That's hysterical.
Little step we take.
He had a cameo. He was the doorman.
Yeah.
He had a cameo in the movie. He was a doorman. Yeah.
And he was just 20 years old when that came out because he was in New Edition, which started as kids. And he had My Prerogative the year before. But, you know, he was a baby. He was a baby when he was making those songs. And he did it so well, so well. I think technically they call that style of music New Jack Swing, which he did. But I don't know all the different genres of music. And just R&B works really well for me. Also, the era of Belle Biv DeVoe. Everybody from New Edition did great things after New Edition broke up.
That's true. I want to comment. Lisa Parker said, is there a benefit to trap a ghost in a box? Favors, energy. I've never been able to catch a ghost in a box. You can do spirits in a box. There's a lot of different witchcraft things and ceremonial where or you're going to catch spirits into a box, but more like demons, deities, and I've not personally been able to catch a ghost in a box, so I've never got favors from it. I don't know. I could be wrong. Anybody else, Richard-Lael?
I've never done it either. I don't think I've ever even had the thought. I will say, however, that I've helped spirits find a host, whether it be a doll or, you know, whatever it may be. And I will tell them, here's a vessel for you that you can stay in this for a moment. This is someone who is going to take care of you, and they're going to give you gifts. They're going to sing to you. They're going to love you. And if any moment you feel like that you are being abused or that you want to move on, you are more than welcome to find the next light and move on. You are not trapped here. You are free, but this is your vessel. I do help people with that.
I do. I talk about that in my upcoming book on haunted dolls and puppets. Yes, that they're beautiful vessels for ghosts, but you don't stick them in there. I mean, you know, and catching one in a box, no.
That's unkind. I would never do that either.
Yeah.
Patti, I have a question for you, and this is also for Tabitha and Richard-Lael too. You talked about how popular Ghostbusters are at paranormal conventions. Is there any bad that comes from it? Like, people think ghost hunting is going to be something like they've seen in a movie, right? Where it's a lot more of a violent conflict and they want to play superhero.
I haven't seen anything. I think everybody gets it with the spirit of what it is, that it's fun. And of course, the car pulls up with all the lights going. It's a photo opportunity for all the guests. It's a photo. The guys come out in their outfits. I've never had it been anything but just kind of cute and fun and positive.
I haven't had anything as far as the Ghostbusters go to be anything other than cute, fun, and positive. But I obviously in other things I have had people who will obsess over films and everything gets blamed on demons. I mean, I whenever I do a seance, I still use my Ouija board, and people who are old enough to remember The Exorcist, it freaks them out. Oh, it's demons! It's demons! So, I mean, and that is the only negative that I can think of. But as far as the Ghostbusters go, no, people get that it's cute. Now, Satan Lives toaster, that's the best. I just love that clip.
That is brilliant.
You have to find it. Satan Lives toaster. It's so funny.
I want a Satan Lives toaster. I want one that says different things every day, though. Anyway, well, I guess it is time. It is time for us to vote on this film, and that is for all of you in our chat room as well.
Jason Mankey has something.
Oh my God, the Mankey Minute.
I mean, we did miss it for 2 weeks. It's fine. It's been gone for half a month.
What about you forever? Oh my God, Jason.
So glad.
It's okay. Back. I almost forgot about it myself while doing quotes and Heather's 5 things.
I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
The floor is yours.
All right. It's a quick one, I promise. 202 million in 2024, 204 million in 2021, 229 million in 2016, and 215 million in 1989. Out of these 4 worldwide box office grosses, guess which movie is considered a flop? If you said 215 million in 1989, you somehow came up with the correct answer. Did you know that $215 million in 1989 is the equivalent to $500 million in today's money? What the? That's right. Ghostbusters 2 was a major box office disappointment. Wonder about the intelligence of movie executives as they scheduled the film's release just 1 week before Michael Keaton's first Batman movie, one of the most anticipated films ever. And that doesn't even take into account Indiana Jones coming out the previous month. Marvel at how studio heads considered the 8th biggest movie of the year a colossal flop. Let's be real. The number 8 movie of the year in a year that not only had the previously mentioned Indiana Jones and Batman, but also Roadhouse, The Little Mermaid, Dead Poets Society, When Harry Met Sally, Major League, Steel Magnolias, Back to the Future 2, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Uncle Buck, Kiki's Delivery Service, Christmas Vacation, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Field of Dreams, Lethal Weapon 2, and of course, movie coven favorite, Teen Witch. I would say that in perhaps the best year for movies ever, number 8 is Pretty Damn Good. But Pretty Damn Good was not good enough for Columbia Pictures, and despite 3 Ghostbusters movies over the last 10 years, the franchise has never gotten back on track. What does this all mean? It means we can't have nice things, and that we all missed out on a third chance to see Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver, Annie Potts, and Harold Ramis all star together in a movie. Was Ghostbusters 2 an all-time great film? Of course not. Is it an entertaining film? Absolutely. Did it deserve better? Oh, yes. It deserved a December release, free and clear Batman and Indiana Jones, where the only ghost it would have had to face at the box office would have been Miss Daisy. But at least we got that cool Bobby Brown song out of the whole deal. Boom, that's it.
Yay, beautiful. Thank you. And look who just popped on screen. Chad the Great and Powerful. Welcome, Chad.
I want it known that I didn't have time to change that before they dropped me in, or it would have said Chad Busters.
Great,
so
Powerful
and I apologize.
Certainly.
But how is everybody?
Great.
Good.
Better now.
You are certainly worthy of great and powerful. There's no question about that.
Yes.
Well, thank you, because much like the wizard, I am also a fraud.
Do you have any thoughts on Ghostbusters 2 before we vote?
I think, so I think that the whole thing at the beginning where they're like, hey, they saved the world and now everyone's conveniently forgotten about it and they're washed up was a terrible direction to start with. But I think the entire sequence with the Statue of Liberty at the end, because I love a musical number, so the whole thing with the Statue of Liberty is wonderful. But those are the only thoughts I can shoehorn in here at the end.
But it does show, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it does show, you're right, about how the amnesia, when the world is saved, how quickly people do forget. I mean, we had COVID. It was 1 million people died. People forget. People just forget.
No, it's true. You're good
Are
point. Good
we
point.
changing history?
Changing history. People do forget. It's like you're a star one day and you don't count if you. Yeah. All right. On that note, let's vote. Everybody, wands up or wands down. Everybody in the chat room, all of us. We welcome Chad getting here just in time.
Your love keeps lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before.
Musical ones up. Look at all of us. Okay, chat room, let us know. I decided to use a broom, a very waxy little broom, because I could bring a little more witchcraft in the movie. You need a little more witchcraft, but definitely wands up. Proton Pack wand up for all Ghostbusters movies, but only one neutral for the female reboot attempt. We're not voting on that one. Wands up, wands up, wands up, wands neutral. Mary Jane, neutral, okay. Wands neutral. Do you want to tell us why in the chat room? Wands up for an 80s classic. So okay, it looks like it's almost unanimous, mostly up, a couple of neutrals, which is not bad for our group. Nobody even got hexed or cursed, which is practically miraculous for our group. That's pretty sneaky.
I was told by our producer that I should try to hex myself tonight to make up for Courtney.
That is good. So what is our movie next week? Do we know? We don't know.
I don't know that we know. I don't know that anybody knows.
Without Heather, we're lost. Heather knows.
Heather knows, but Heather isn't here.
Next week, we will be reviewing the movie Heather Knows, about a psychic who lives in Atlanta, Georgia.
And how do we tell people to watch it? Well, you guys are we're just going to have to post it somewhere. He knows, but we don't know what our next movie is.
Are we doing?
The Designing Women know.
Designing Women know.
Lord of the Rings, or what?
It's gonna be Nach einen Stuhl, which is a German impressionist film. It is about the 4 generations of a family told from the perspective of a fireside armchair.
And you can get it on Amazon Prime for $3.99.
Do I see I think I see a "Let's Do Heathers" in the chat there. Yeah.
Heathers. See,
our producer says we think it's the Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh God, I'm not looking forward to it.
We did postpone that while I was gone because I'm a big Lord of the Rings nerd. So
I'm Huckleberry, Jason.
I think, Richard-Lael, that you're missing the grander scheme of things, which is being able to judge the interiors of all of the Hobbit homes for how they're decorated.
That is true. That is definitely true. But I will tell you that I used to work for the San Francisco Opera, and we did the Ring Cycle by Wagner, and the thing about, they're somehow connected, the Lord of the Rings and the Ring Cycle. They're connected, and from what I know about the Wagner is that it builds and 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 builds, and it does not go anywhere. So I don't know how I feel about the Lord of the Rings.
Well, the Lord of the Rings definitely goes somewhere. However, the weird thing about the way that the movies are made is there is a moment about 2/3 of the way through each of the films where it feels like the movie is over, and then it's suddenly not. So
wait a minute, how many Lord of the Rings are there?
Well, there's 3 of the original trilogy, and then there's the extended editions, and then there's the second trilogy prequel of the Hobbit series.
I think I feel a headache coming on.
Richard-Lael, you could watch the
Richard-Lael, you're
cartoon
doing it.
adaptations. You could watch the cartoon adaptations, of which there are only 2, and save yourself about 6 hours of watching movies, probably.
Maybe I can just read the Cliff Notes, or maybe I can read the wiki page or something.
I think that you're judging it too harshly. I feel like you would really enjoy it if you gave it a chance. And I'm not even being facetious. I think you honestly will like it. I think the pomposity of the elves is especially going to appeal to you.
Are we just doing the first one or the whole shebang?
Because we love Richard-Lael, probably only the first one.
Okay,
but...
all right. Just want to clear that up too, so people aren't out there trying. Oh my gosh! Not that I would mind for the 80 millionth time.
Okay,
Yeah.
should we call it and decide that that's what it is, and then tell Heather that's what it is, even if that isn't what it is?
That's what it is.
Absolutely. That's what it is.
Rings number 1. All right. Well, it is that time. Does anybody have anything coming up that they want to talk about, or is it just time to cackle?
On March 21st through March 23rd, I will be at Paganicon in Minneapolis, as will Heather Green. So I'm doing both of us at the same time.
Okay, perfect. That's it. I'll hold everything for next week. So you guys, thank you. Come tell your friends about us. Come back next week and show us your love on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.